Welcome to today's video on Cambridge IGCSE Mathematics for the syllabus codes 0607 and 0580. Our topic for today will be calculator skills, where we will be looking at the subtopic graphic display calculators. The aim of this video is to help familiarize yourself with the graphing calculator. Do keep in mind, however, that the steps that are demonstrated here can vary slightly depending on the calculator model that you are using. But this video would help you get the hang of the basic functions that you can compute. I will now walk you through a quiz and show you how we can solve these questions using a graphing calculator. To begin off with the first question that we have here, the question reads, use the graphing calculator to find out which coordinate satisfies our inequality. And the inequality that we have been given is y is less than or equals to the modulus of 2x. To begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and graph this inequality. Let's see how we can work that using our calculator. So what we need to do to begin with is to go ahead and click our graphing menu. Now you can use your arrow keys to go ahead and select the graphing menu, or you can select it by pressing the number 5. Now this is the functions that we would have in the graphing menu. And what we need to do here is we need to enter in the inequality that we have. If I look at this part here, I can see that this is saying y is equals to something. And what we need to do is we need to change this so it represents our inequality. So we're not dealing with an equation here. We're not dealing with a function that says y is equals to something. We're dealing with a function that says y is less than or equals to something. And to change this into an inequality, what we need to do is we need to select this type. So that's F3 there. And then I'm just going to move ahead until I can see y is less than or equals to. So this is the option that I have, and I'm going to click F4 to change that from an equation into our inequality instead. Once we've gotten that, we can go ahead and type in this function. That's the modulus of 2x. Now, to obtain your modulus function on your graphing calculator, you need to go ahead and click the button option. And after you click onto option, you need to click onto numeric. So that's the button F5. And over here, you're going to see something that says ABS. ABS here stands for absolute, and this represents a modulus function. So I have to click F1 next. And this enters in our modulus bars here. So inside these bars, I'm going to type in 2x. So 2 is from our number pad, and x, I can see it's this tiny x that's in red. And to obtain any of the functions that we have in red, we need to first click onto this alpha and then press onto the corresponding button. And there we go. Now we've typed in y is less than or equals to the modulus of 2x. I'm going to click in equals, and when this inequality sign has been highlighted in blue, I can see that now we're ready to go ahead and graph the function. To graph the function, I need to click onto draw here, which is the button F6. So I'm going to click onto that. And there we go. That's how we can graph this inequality that we have. Now, the question has given us a set of 4 separate coordinates. And we're going to check one by one which of these coordinates satisfy our inequality. The regions that are shaded here are the regions that are satisfied by our inequality. And the regions that are not shaded represent the areas that are not satisfied by inequality. So if the coordinates lie in the shaded region, it satisfies the inequality. And if it lies outside the shaded region, it does not satisfy the inequality. So let's go ahead and check these coordinates. So the first coordinate that we have is 1, 1. If I look at the point 1, 1, I can see it's over here. And I can see that this coordinate definitely lies in the shaded region. So we already have our answer here. But let's go ahead and check the other answers just to be sure as well. So the next one is 2, 5. I'm going to figure out where 2, 5 is. And I can see that it's up here and it's lying outside the shaded region, which means that it does not satisfy the inequality. Now, I can see that 3, 8 is a coordinate that I that is not visible on the screen here. But what we can do is we can move using our arrow keys over here until we reach that coordinate. So I can see that this is the value 8 on the y-axis and the coordinate 3, 8 be over here. And I can see it's lying outside the shaded region, so it does not satisfy any equality. And then the final coordinate that we have is 4, 13. I'll have to move a bit more higher to reach that. And here we go, we have it here. So this is going to be the coordinate 4, 13. And it's again lying outside the shaded region, so it does not satisfy our inequality. The question reads, use the calculator to find the roots of the function y is equals to minus x squared plus 13x. Now, if we draw the graph of minus x squared plus 13x, we know that we're going to get a maximum graph, and if we need to find out the roots of the function, we are going to be looking at the x-intercepts. Now, let's go ahead and see how we can actually do this on a calculator. To solve a question like this on our calculator, there's two different menus that we can use, or two different ways we can perform this calculation. The first way that we can use is by using an equation function. Now, to access the equation function, you can either move to this using your arrow keys, or you can click on the button that says A, and that's going to bring you up to your equation function menu. From here, because we are dealing with a polynomial equation, I'm going to click in the button F2, and then the degree of the equation that we have here is 2, because the highest power of x here is 2. So I'm going to click in F1, which corresponds to a degree of 2. And that brings us to this screen that we have over here. Now over here, we need to type in our equation in the format of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is a coefficient of x squared, b is a coefficient of x, and c is our numerical value. In this case, I can see that my a, or the coefficient of x squared, is -1, and the coefficient of x, that's b, is 13. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in these spaces. So remember that when you're typing in a negative value in these function menus, avoid using the subtraction key. Instead, use this negative key over here. So over here, I'm going to type the -1, enter. And then for b, I'm going to put in 13. C is, we don't have a numerical value, so I'm going to leave C as 0. And then I'm going to click solve. That's F1. And now we've solved the equation here. We've looked at the roots of this, and I can see that we have roots of 13, 0. Now what this means, like I mentioned before, is these are your x-intercepts. These are the values or the points where your graph is going to be intersecting with your x-axis. And if I convert this into coordinates, this is going to be the coordinates 13, 0, and 0, 0, which is our second answer option over here. Now, although we've seen what the answer over here is, we're also going to try to do this using a graphical method. So we're going to use the other screen as well to solve this question. So let's see how that's done. So to bring up the entire menu, I'm going to click the menu button here, and then I'm going to click 5, which brings up the graph menu. And in this graph menu, I'm going to type in the equation that we have. That's minus x squared plus 13x. That's minus x squared plus 13x. And once I've done this, I'm going to click in enter, and then I will go ahead and draw the graph by clicking on F6. Now this draws my graph for me over here. And then what we can do here is we can find out the roots of this specific function. To obtain the roots, you're going to click Shift, which brings up your command menu. And from here, you're going to click in GSolve. That's F5. And after that, you see something that says root, and we're going to click onto that. So that's F1 over here. And then we will be able to obtain the roots. So over here, I can see that the roots is wherever my graph is intersecting with my x-axis. And the first root here, that's the one that's highlighted here, is 0, 0. And to obtain the second root, I can move using my arrow keys. And I can highlight this point here. And this is a point 13, 0. So there we go. That's how we can use our calculator to find out the roots of different functions. So that's the sense over here. Now, something else that you can remember is that when you're using a calculator, sometimes you might not be able to obtain your entire graph on one screen like this. And if you do not obtain your entire graph on one screen, or you want to look at a different position of your graph, what we can do is we can use a zoom function. So how can we obtain the zoom function? I can click Shift and I can click F2 with my zoom function. And then I'm going to move my cursor key to the point that I want to focus on. And then I can click in if I want to zoom in, or out if I want to zoom out. And after I do that, I'm just going to click the position that I want my calculator to focus on. In this case, I'm just going to click the point 0.3 and 0. So x of negative 0.3 and a y of 0. And then we can click in enter. And this is going to zoom in the graph in that position that you're looking at if you want to have a closer look at your graph. So that's something that you can do using your calculator as well. You can zoom in or zoom out of your graphs. The next question is asking us to use our calculator to find the roots of the function y is equals to x squared minus 2x minus 8. And to solve this equation, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use the graphical method that we have. We're going to use a graphing method instead. So once we have our main menu over here, we're going to click onto 5, and this opens up our graph menu. And we're going to check if this is showing us y is equals to, and I can see this is y is equals to. So now that we've performed that check, we can go ahead and type in our equation over here. So this is going to be y is equals to x squared minus 2x minus 8. And there we go. We've typed in the equation, and then what we can do, we can click enter, and then we can click draw. So that's F6. Now, once we've done this, we can click in Shift, which brings up our command menu, and then we can click F5 for GSolve, and then we can click on F1 to obtain the roots. Here we have two roots, and the first root here is negative 2 and 0, and I can see these x and y values have been given over here. And to obtain the second root, we can use our arrow keys to move to it, and the second root is 4, 0. So the two roots that we have is negative 2, 0 and 4, 0. So that's the second option that we have over here. Our fourth question is very similar as well. It says, use the calculator to find the roots of the function y is equals to 2x squared plus x minus 3. Now, before I do this question, I can see that I have my previous equation still on here. So what I need to do is I need to remove this or delete this. And to do that, I can click F2, which is delete. And then I would click onto F1 to delete that formula. Now we have a blank canvas, and we can go ahead and type in our equation here. So in this case, that's going to be 2x squared plus x minus 3. And once we've done that, we can click in enter and then click in draw. So that's G6. Once we've drawn this, I can see that we've found our roots over here. So to obtain the exact points of these roots, I click Shift, which brings up the command menu. Then I'm going to click GSolve, that's F5, and then F1 to obtain my roots. So the first root is negative 1.5, 0, and the second root is going to be 1, 0. Now, in this case, we just need to find the roots instead of finding the coordinates. So we're just going to give those x values over there. So that's negative 1.5 and positive 1. So that's our first answer option over here. Do remember that you can also find the roots of these functions using your equation menu, like we've seen before. Moving on to our next question, it says, use the graphing calculator to find which coordinates satisfy the inequality y is greater than or equals to minus x plus 2. So we're going to click onto our graphing menu by clicking on the key 5. And then once we reach this key 5, like we've done before, we need to first change this equation into an inequality. And to do that, we have to click onto F3, And then move on until we can see y is greater than or equals to. So that's F3 again here. And now I would be able to type in this inequality. So we go ahead and type in the inequality. The inequality that we have is minus x plus 2. And once we've done that, we can click onto enter and then F6 to draw this graph. Now I can see that the graph would be drawn for us, and the areas that have been satisfied by the inequality would be the areas that we can see that shaded in blue over here. Now let's go ahead and see these different coordinates. We have 2, -2. So that's the coordinate that we can see over here. And I can see that 2, -2, it does not lie in the shaded region, so it does not satisfy inequality. Then we will look at the next one, that's 4, -1. I can see that's a coordinate over here, and it does satisfy this inequality. So that's basically our answer. That's the second option. Then we have 4, -3. If you look at this closely, I can see 4, -3 is over here. And it's lying outside the shaded region, so it does not satisfy inequality. And our final coordinate that they've given us is -2, -2. That's all the way over here. So that definitely does not satisfy inequality. So the option that we have here is going to be the second option over here. It's 4, -1, which lies in the shaded region and therefore would satisfy this inequality. The next question says, use a graphing calculator to find out which coordinates satisfy the inequality y is less than or equals to x plus 1. So we're going to do the same steps that we followed on our previous question as well. We first need to change the type here because we're dealing with y is less than or equals to instead of y is greater than or equals to. So F3 and y is less than or equals to. So I've changed the type. And now I will just go ahead and type in the equation. That's x plus 1. Click enter and then click draw over here. We've drawn our graph. We're going to look at all of these coordinates on this coordinate grid that will be given here. And then we're going to select the answer as a point that's lying in the shaded region. And the rest of it would definitely be lying outside this shaded region. Let's go ahead and see which coordinates are lying inside this shaded region. The first coordinate given is -4 and 5. I'm just going to move using my cursor keys here. So -4 and 5. I can see is lying in the unshaded region, so that does not satisfy our inequality. Let's move on to the next option that we have. That's 4, 4. And I can see that 4, 4 is over here. It is satisfied by this inequality, so that's our answer. On our next question, we're going to use the graphing calculator to find which coordinate satisfies the inequality y is less than x squared plus 7x plus 11. So over here, we're going to go ahead and change the type. And once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and type in our equation. And then click enter and then draw. Once our graph has been drawn, we're going to look at each of these coordinates and see if they satisfy or don't satisfy this inequality. The first thing that we have is -4, 2. I can see that's lying outside the shaded region, so it does not satisfy the inequality. Then moving on to -3, 4. That also does not satisfy the inequality. Then we have -2, 2. So I can see that -2, 2 also does not satisfy the inequality. It's lying just outside the shaded region. And our final coordinate is -1 and 3. And I can see that -1 and 3 lies in the shaded region. So that's our answer option 4 over here. On question 8, it asks us, which button do you need to click to get to the screen where you enter a function you want to graph? Now, we've seen that here we need to click onto graph to enter the functions that we need to graph. So the answer here is the first option, that's graph. In this next question, we're going to find the intersection points of y equals to negative x squared plus 5x and y is equals to negative 6. So we're going to click 5, get into our graph menu, and then type in the equations that we have. So that's negative x squared plus 5x. And then I'm going to click enter. And then I'm going to type in my second equation, that's y is equals to negative 6. And then click enter again. And then after that, I'm going to draw these graphs. So over here, I can see that we have two graphs. The graph in blue is negative x squared plus 5x. And the graph in red is y is equals to negative 6. And I can move through my graph by using my arrow keys. And once I can see my points of intersection clearly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click onto Shift. Then I'm going to click onto G-solve once I obtain my command menu. And then I'm going to click Intersect. That's F5. And over here, we will get the coordinates of the points of intersection that's been shown on the screen over here. So the first point of intersection is when x is negative 1 and y is negative 6. And the second point of intersection is when x is 6 and y is negative 6. I can see that in my answer options, we're only focusing on the x coordinates. So that's a coordinate negative 1 and positive 6. So negative 1 and positive 6 is our answer option 4 over here. For our final question, we're going to see for the equations y is equals to x cubed and y is equals to x, how many points of intersection there are. So again, we're going to click on to graph, and then we're going to type in these equations. So that's y is equals to x cubed, and then click enter, and then type in y is equals to x over here. And then click in enter again, and then click F6 to draw the graphs. Now over here, I can see the blue graph is the cubic graph that we have, and then y is equals to x, that's a graph in red. I'm going to go ahead and try to zoom in on here so I can see my points of intersection a little bit better. So I can click Shift, Zoom, click F3 to zoom in, and then make sure that the cursor is somewhere in the center where I want my zoom center to be in, and then click Enter. So I can see that my intersection points are over here and here, and I can see them really clearly. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click Shift, and I'm going to click onto G-solve over here. And then I'm going to obtain my intersection points. I can click F5 over here. And over here, I can see clearly that the intersection points I have are negative 1, where x is equals to negative 1 and y is equals to negative 1, where x is 0 and y is 0, and where x is 1 and y is 1. And clearly, we can see that there are 3 separate points of intersection. So the answer here should be 3. So there we go. That's how we would use our graphic display calculator. Thank you.